Geneva, March 2001. The city has attracted automotive enthusiasts, industry insiders, and journalists from around the globe like moths to a flame, all filled with excitement awaiting one of the most prestigious events, the Geneva Motor Show. The annual event, renowned for shining a light on the future of the automotive industry as manufacturers showcase their creations and groundbreaking innovations, has once again lived up to its name. Amidst the dazzling array of concept cars and cutting-edge technology, whispers take to the wind, whispers of a new legend taking the crescendo. But before we go any deeper into the world of automotive excellence, let's take a journey through the thrilling world of espionage and danger. People around the globe were lining up to catch the latest James Bond flick on the silver screen, a franchise that had millions of fans around the world. And Pierce Brosnan was appearing as 007 himself for the fourth time. In Die Another Day, James Bond faces one of his most perilous missions yet. Captured and tortured in North Korea, Bond is eventually traded in a prisoner exchange, only to find himself mistrusted by his own government. Determined to clear his name and uncover the truth, Bond embarks on a globe-trotting adventure that takes him from the icy landscapes of Iceland to the sun-soaked beaches of Cuba. Gustav Graves, the film's antagonist, is a man of immense wealth and ruthless ambition. He hides a dark secret and a deadly weapon, an orbital mirror satellite capable of harnessing the power of the sun to create devastating weaponry. Bond's pursuit of Graves, filled with danger, deception, and betrayal, almost sent him to his own grave multiple times. In the climax of the movie, Bond managed to infiltrate the ice castle of the Big Bad. A high-octane battle took place, with bullets flying everywhere. At the center of it all is James Bond, with a menacing car that reflects his soul, the Aston Martin Vanquish. Brimming with state-of-the-art gadgets, he manages to vanquish wave after wave of enemy troops. But Bond wasn't the only one equipped with a remarkable set of wheels. While Bond was putting on a showcase with his Aston, Gustav's right-hand man, Zal, saddled up in a custom Jaguar XXR, an equally ferocious machine tailored specifically to take down Bond and his Vanquish. With its menacing green paint job, missile launchers, and a mounted Gatling gun, the Jaguar XXR was a worthy foe. Throughout the movie, Gustav Graves has been one step ahead of Bond, anticipating his every move. Time was running out, the stakes were higher than ever, and a global catastrophe was just around the corner. Despite all odds, Bond, with his trusty steed, the Vanquish, managed to run circles around Gustav and his goon squad. The way Bond handled the Vanquish was poetic, effortlessly weaving through the chaos as if the car were an extension of himself. As the credits roll, the theater erupts, as fans start celebrating Bond's triumphant return. I know what you're thinking right now. Did we even watch the same movie? The movie sucked from the beginning to the end, and is arguably one of the worst in the franchise. Other than Halle Berry's performance as Jinx in the film, the only good thing to come from the movie was the Aston Martin Vanquish. In the movie, the Vanquish was dubbed as the Vanish due to its state-of-the-art camouflage technology. With its sleek and elegant design and armed to the teeth with high-tech gadgets that would make any spy envious, the Vanish definitely stole the show. Let's get back to the real world. While the Aston Martin Vanquish available to the public wasn't equipped with front-firing machine guns and deployable spikes for icy terrains, to the revolutionary cloaking device that renders the car nearly invisible, it still stands as a pinnacle of automotive engineering. Just like James Bond, the Aston Martin Vanquish was also going up against heavy competition. Ferrari was already a few steps ahead with the Ferrari 550 Maranello. Playing catch-up is no easy task, and when you have something as magnificent as the Maranello on the opposite corner, the task is even more daunting. It was not just the Vanquish fighting for its place in the automotive world, it was Aston Martin as a whole, and this was one fight Aston Martin could not afford to lose. Before the challenges that came with the new millennium, Aston Martin enjoyed a golden era. This was mainly due to one of the most successful Aston Martin ventures to date, the DB5, a model that will go down in history as one of the best cars Aston Martin ever made. Introduced in 1963 with a marvelous design and a 4-litre inline-6 underneath, producing 282 horsepower, the DB5 was revolutionary for its time. Before the Vanquish became the star of the silver screens, the DB5 became an icon in both cinema and automobile history. The car even earned its place in subsequent movies such as Thunderball, GoldenEye, Skyfall, and 5 more, taking the title for the most appearances in James Bond films. However, Aston Martin could only ride on the coattails of the DB5 for so long. While the DB6 and later models carried the torch, none really captured the most appearances in James Bond films. By the time the 2000s came along, the absence of a true heir to the DB5's legacy left a void in Aston Martin's lineup. Aston Martin, unable to get away from the shadow cast by the DB5, did not find itself in a very good place. Despite a storied legacy and a reputation for building some of the most stunning and powerful vehicles on the street, the company was struggling financially. One reason for this was their inability to find a place in the automotive market at that time. Ford had owned Aston Martin in part since 1987, and a few years later, by 1993, they'd taken over complete ownership, and the results, well, they were less than stellar. The DB7 was in production from 1994. It was Aston Martin's attempt at making a genuinely affordable car. For the most part, it was quite well received. But there was no denying that driving a DB7 was not an authentic Aston Martin experience that customers loyal to the brand crave. Why? The DB7, well, it was barely an Aston in the first place. Half of the car was borrowed from Jaguar, which was also owned by Ford at the time. The chassis was a slightly revised version of the chassis from the Jaguar XJS. The 3.2 inline-6 was derived from the Jaguar AJ6 engine, which was designed in 1984. The automatic transmission was the exact same one used in the XJS. Most of the suspension, and brakes too, they came from the XJS as well. So basically, what you were driving was a Jaguar XJS with a redesigned shell and the Aston Martin wings. While the DB7 might be considered a classic today, it wasn't a big hit in the 90s. In its 10-year run, which ended in 2004, only 7,000 units were ever produced and sold. No doubt the car was beautiful to look at, but it couldn't hide the dated foundation underneath. For customers, even those who were loyal to the brand, purchasing a DB7 did not make sense. For an affordable car, the DB7 rolled out with a hefty price tag of £78,500, with the Vantage V12 variant priced even higher. If you were in the market for a Grand Tourer in the 90s, the Jaguar XK8 made way more sense than the DB7. The XK8 had the same amount of luxury, it had a better engine, and it was better than the DB7 in every other way. Plus, the XK8 was priced cheaper than the DB7 at around £50,000. On the other end of the spectrum, we had the Aston Martin V8 Vantage V600. Now, this was truly a marvel of engineering. It was powered by a 6-litre supercharged V8 producing 600 horsepower. Not a lot of cars from before the 2000s were able to generate those kinds of numbers. The power was out of this world, but so was the price. Out of the factory, the V600 cost almost £250,000 to own. The Ferrari 550 Maranello, introduced at around the same time, offered a much better deal than the V600. While it might have fallen slightly behind the V600 on raw power alone, it was better in every other department. More importantly, it was significantly cheaper than the V600. Clearly, something had to be done. Aston Martin was in desperate need of a fresh new car that reflected the spirit of the company, was competitively priced, and could go toe-to-toe with the powerful machines put out by Ferrari, Jaguar, and its other automotive rivals. Little did we know that a concept car from 1998, known as Project Vantage at the time, was destined to be the savior of Aston Martin. This was a Hail Mary from Aston, a bold move to reclaim the throne, and they could just not afford to drop the ball on this one. The vision behind the Vanquish was clear: design a Grand Tourer that bridges the gap between luxury and performance, a car that is comfortable enough for you to ride across the continent, but has also got some oomph when you decide to put the foot down. Designing the Vanquish posed a tough challenge. It had to shed any elements that might make it feel old or repurposed, while still drawing inspiration from the rich heritage of the brand. And it needed to be technologically advanced to carry Aston Martin into the new millennium. Tasked to bring this vision to life was renowned designer Ian Callum, a British car designer with an impressive career spanning over 2 decades. Callum began his career at Ford, where he was involved in various projects, including the RS200 and Escort RS Cosworth. He later left Ford to join Tom Wilkshire Racing Design as chief engineer and general manager. During his time at TWR, he was brought in to design the DB7 and its V12-powered variant, the DB7 Vanquish. Callum had already made a name for himself by the time he was brought in to design the Vanquish. His vision for the car was one that paid homage to the brand's past, while also embracing the advancements of the modern era. The results were nothing short of spectacular. Going straight to the bones, the Vanquish was featured with a bonded aluminium composite chassis with a carbon fiber core. The chassis was made with the help of Lotus, who were already pioneers when it came to lightweight and high-performance chassis designs. In Callum's design, the central tunnel of the chassis was made of carbon fiber to improve the car's structural integrity, all while keeping the weight as low as possible. Unfortunately, the end product did not feature the carbon fiber core from the earlier designs. At the time, the cost that went into building a carbon fiber frame, it just wasn't worth it. Remember, Aston Martin still needed to keep the price of the Vanquish as low as possible, so they had no other choice but to risk the extra weight and hope to neutralize it in some other department. Callum knocked it out of the park with the exterior of the Vanquish. The Super GT featured a muscular look with its wide and aggressive stance, which was even more pronounced thanks to the flared-out wheel arches and a low-slung profile. The body lines drew inspiration from Astons of the past, particularly the DB4 GT Zagato. This is especially evident when arching rear quarter panels. Pop the hood, and you'll discover that the most stunning aspect of the Vanquish is tucked away, out of sight. Under the hood was a naturally aspirated, mighty 5.9-litre V12 engine with a quad-cam design. The engine was actually a refined version of the V12 seen in the DB7 V12 Vanquish, but this time with a bit more power. At its peak, the V12 produced an exhilarating 460 horses, enough to propel the Vanquish from 0 to 60 in just 4.5 seconds. The Vanquish just kept giving. Step inside the cabin and you're greeted with the most well-crafted interior ever. The seats, upholstered in the finest hand-stitched leather, offered exceptional support and comfort too, perfect for long journeys or spirited drives. Some of the elements in the interior were brought in from their parent company, Ford. Specifically, the climate control system and some switchgear in the Vanquish's center console were sourced from Ford. Even so, it didn't take anything away from the Vanquish, but instead it left them with more time to focus on performance and design aspects of the car while simultaneously cutting down on cost. Now to the most important part. What sets the Vanquish apart from the rest? The driving dynamics. The Vanquish delivers an exhilarating driving experience, perfectly balancing performance and luxury. Its independent double wishbone suspension system ensures excellent handling and ride comfort, allowing the car to glide effortlessly over various road conditions. Put the car in GT mode and the acceleration will be linear, the upshifts are smooth, and they won't push you back in your seat. Now, if you wanted a bit more excitement to get the blood pumping, you can switch to Sports Plus. Now, all of a sudden, you feel the true power of the Vanquish. The V12, which let out a gentle rumble before, now sounds like a thunderous roar. Put the pedal to the metal and you'll feel the surge of acceleration pinning you back into that handcrafted leather seat. Upshifts are quick and lively, and downshifts are equally snappy too, getting the RPM back up in an instant. Reaching the 190 mph top speed all of a sudden seems like a breeze. Hell, you feel like you can even push past it if you want to. On paper, while the 550 Maranello might edge out on the Vanquish in certain specs, the Vanquish still had a lot going in its favor. Looks are subjective, but put the Aston and the Ferrari side by side and most will lean towards the design of the Vanquish. But, more importantly, they are two different cars. The Maranello, while marketed as a Super GT, leaned more toward the performance side of things. Its sharp handling, precise feedback, and its agility made it a thrilling choice for track enthusiasts and those who sought a performance-focused driving experience. The Vanquish, on the other hand, embraced the essence of a Grand Tourer, offering a refined and luxurious driving experience without sacrificing on performance. It found the perfect balance between comfort and sportiness, making it ideal for long drives, city streets, and cross-continent journeys. To put it simply, the Vanquish appealed to those who appreciate the finer things in life. Behind the wheel of the Vanquish, you looked and felt like Mr. 007 himself. Aston Martin's gamble with the Vanquish paid off big time. As soon as it started rolling onto the streets, it was hailed as a masterpiece, a car that embodied the very essence of Aston Martin. While it might not have been the most profitable car for the company, the Vanquish brought back much-needed respect to Aston Martin's name. It put the company back on the map as one of the premier luxury sports car manufacturers. There's no denying that the Vanquish was one of the most important cars the company ever manufactured. The initial run of the Vanquish spanned from 2001 to 2017. During this decade-and-a-half period, the Vanquish went through several evolutions, each building upon one another, all to stay relevant and ahead of the competition. A big leap in the evolution of the Vanquish took place in 2004, when Aston Martin released the Vanquish S. The Vanquish S was essentially a higher trim level of the original Vanquish, offering more power and a focus on track performance. The engine was the same V12, but this time better tuned to offer 520 horsepower. At the time, this was the most powerful car in Aston Martin's arsenal, capable of reaching speeds of up to 200 miles per hour. The 0 to 60 was half a second faster than the original, with the Vanquish S clocking in at just 4 seconds. The design was further polished, and the aerodynamics of the car were improved, and the fog light turn signals, which were easily one of the most disliked features of the original release back in 2001, were now removed, giving a more refined look to the Vanquish S. This led the way to the second generation of the Vanquish, introduced in 2012. The new design was led by Marek Reichman, a renowned designer in the engineering field who, like Ian Callum, had a storied career working on legendary cars. The new Vanquish was based on Aston Martin's V8 platform, similar to the DB9. Once again, the 5.9-litre V12 found its place under the hood, this time producing 565 horsepower. Similar to the first generation, an improved, more powerful Vanquish S was released, along with the Vanquish Volante, a convertible version that combined the exhilarating performance of the coupe with the thrill of open-top driving. Even though the Vanquish was a successful venture for Aston, certain challenges led to the hiatus of the model, ending its maiden run in 2018. Aston Martin was grappling with financial constraints, and once again, the market trends were shifting. Even with the regular updates to the Vanquish, the platform on which it was built was becoming old and obsolete. Aston Martin once again needed to come up with something new, something innovative. So, the company decided to focus on newer models like the Aston Martin DB9 Superleggera, which was intended to be the successor to the Vanquish. The automotive industry as a whole was going through major transformations in the 2010s, with a growing emphasis on electric and hybrid vehicles, advanced driver assistance systems, and sustainable manufacturing practices. As a car manufacturer, it is vital to stay ahead of these trends to ensure that you're not left behind. While losing a gem like the Aston Martin Vanquish is not ideal, in many ways it was necessary. And this allowed Aston Martin to allocate more resources to models with the greatest potential for profitability. The year 2024 marked a pivotal point in the history of Aston Martin, as they decided to finally bring back the Vanquish, a name that has been synonymous with the brand's identity, a showcase of luxury, performance, and timeless design. But why now? Why bring back the Vanquish after 5 years? Enter Lawrence Stroll, a Canadian billionaire with a net worth of over $3.9 billion, who made his fortune in the fashion industry by investing in brands like Tommy Hilfiger and Michael Kors. But more importantly, a billionaire with a passion for high-performance cars and a vision to restore Aston Martin to its former glory. In 2020, Stroll led the U-Tree Investments Consortium to invest £182 million into Aston Martin, acquiring a 16.7% stake in the company. This move brought in a much-needed financial boost for Aston Martin, but also brought Stroll's business acumen and relentless drive to the table. More than the financial aspect of it, the investment was a commitment to revitalize the brand and elevate it to new heights. Along with Stroll also came the Formula One team, Racing Point, which Stroll had acquired a couple of years back. With his acquisition of Aston Martin, the F1 team was officially rebranded as the Aston Martin F1 team. In many ways, Stroll's acquisition of Aston Martin started a new chapter for the British car company. With Stroll in the picture, one of the first big moves was the construction of a new multi-building facility at Silverstone. The facility was set to both support the F1 team to bring glory back to the brand's name and aid in the development of road cars. The plan was to create a synergy between F1 team's technological leaps and the brand's production vehicles to hit two birds with one stone. Recognizing the importance of talent in driving success, Stroll recruited top industry experts to join Aston Martin. Among them was legendary F1 designer Adrian Newey, whose contributions to motorsport have become the stuff of legend. Newey played a big role in Red Bull's racing ascent to dominance in the 2010s. His engineering genius, especially in aerodynamic design, helped push the boundaries of what was achievable from an F1 car, helping Red Bull secure multiple championships. Newey's work in the circuit also paved the way for groundbreaking projects like the Aston Martin Valkyrie, a hypercar with track-worthy performance, but also road-worthy refinement. And to execute the other half of the plan, Stroll brought in Andy Cowell, a renowned engine genius known for his work at Mercedes-AMG high-performance powertrains. This man was appointed as the new team principal and CEO, and he brought in a wealth of knowledge in building high-performance engines and hybrid powertrains. Restructuring and investing in state-of-the-art facilities were all part of Stroll's broader vision of creating a championship-winning F1 team. Being in the forefront of the competition was not just about winning races, but it was also about elevating the brand's image and showcasing Aston Martin's engineering prowess. Along with Formula One, Stroll also invested in Aston Martin GT's racing program, ensuring that the brand remained a dominant force in endurance racing. Aston Martin, they also made a lot of progress beyond the racetrack as well. On public roads, Stroll's vision for Aston Martin was to focus on sustainability and electrification. Recognizing the growing importance of environmental responsibility, he urged the development of hybrid and electric powertrains for Aston's lineup of road cars. This helped Aston Martin stay relevant in the rapidly changing automotive landscape. So, how does this all play into the return of the Vanquish? After Lawrence Stroll took over the company, the results were immediate. Just 2 years after, Aston Martin was in a really good place. The finances were stable, the manufacturing process was going smoothly, their technology was up to date, and they had a good arsenal of cars that were garnering really good sales. When the second generation of the Vanquish was discontinued, it left a hole in the market for a luxury Grand Tourer. While the DB11 Superleggera took up the mantle when the Vanquish left, it just wasn't the same. The Superleggera, well, it was a good car in its own right, but it just didn't capture the essence and allure that comes with a super luxury GT in the same way the Vanquish was able to. Unlike the Vanquish, the Superleggera seemed to lean more towards the performance and sporty nature of the car, much like a Ferrari. But unlike a Ferrari, the Superleggera wasn't a light car, weighing in at 3,990 pounds. That is quite counterintuitive, as the name Superleggera in Italian literally translates to lightweight, but that's a story for another day. Anyway, with the company in a stable place, in 2022, the development of the new Aston Martin Vanquish began. This time, the design was spearheaded by a guy who'd worked with Aston since 2008, a man who understood the inner workings and nuances of the brand intimately, a man who lived and breathed Aston Martin, Miles Numberger. He's worked on some of the most ambitious projects of Aston Martin, designing cars like the DBX SUV, the Valkyrie hypercar, and the two Lagonda Vision EV concepts. You couldn't find someone better to work on the design of the Vanquish. With the third-gen Vanquish, the goal for Numberger was clear: take everything that worked with the original Vanquish and make it relevant to this new decade. For Numberger, this meant a complete redesign that embodied both the elegance and aggression of its predecessors, while ensuring that the car carves through the air without leaching power. The task ahead of Numberger, it wasn't easy. When you work on a car with a name like the Vanquish, that in itself is more than enough pressure. Plus, you have to worry about designing a car that both honors the legacy of the original and lives up to it. Ian Callum had set the bar high, and as Nürnberger put it, the name carries quite a bit of meaning at the company. Weighty, mighty, and athletic. That was the tone that had been set by the original. Nürnberger's vision was clear: to create a look that reflects what the car hides underneath, a car that exudes power and presence. He once described the Vanquish as a boxer in a tailored suit, and the more you think about it, the more the analogy makes sense. Nürnberger's brain is wired differently. The way he thinks about cars is unique, and that is partly the reason why he was able to create such a masterpiece. Going deeper into the design, you'll immediately notice the muscular stance, sculpted lines, and pronounced shoulders of the car, giving it a real presence, even if it's just parked by the side of the road. The new generation of Vanquish models is longer than before, with the distance between the A-pillar and the front axle extended by 80mm, resulting in a lengthened bonnet that creates a rakish and indulgent profile. Moving toward the front end, the iconic grille is hard to miss. The traditional vaned grille has been enlarged and is now 13% bigger than the grille on the DBS 770 Ultimate, all to feed the engine beneath with more air. New outer bumper vents channel more air around the nose, channeling cool air to the front wheel arches to assist with brake cooling. Speaking of braking, the car is fitted with massive carbon ceramic brakes that deliver phenomenal stopping power whenever you need it. Stopping a 3,900-pound behemoth traveling at high speeds, that's no easy task. And when so much energy is involved,